The world was engulfed in war between the legendary forces Tai Kang and Tai Yu. Consequently, they died together in their finale. After Kang's death, his energy manifested by birthing things in the world, while Yu's energy was transformed into a divine stone that became a divine mountain upon descending on Earth. It was the dawn of the barbaric era. After the brutal era subsided, the divine mountain ascended back into the sky. It manifested as the immortal world, with 36 families calling themselves the Immortals, becoming responsible for controlling the divine stone. Such powerful beings descended to the earth and aided the human race in cultivating and ascending themselves. The story resumes in the present at Qijian Mountain, where two gentlemen of differing ages are playing chess. The older man conceded that despite playing every day for half a month, he barely won any matches. His opponent, a young and dazzling fellow in his looks, remarked that he was just proficient because of his sharp arithmetic skills. In admiration, the older man inquired for his name. Shen introduced himself as a member of the Zhong family. His revelation caused an outlash from the old man, who was baffled at how he was unable to detect any signs of a formationist. Shen declared that he had been issued an order from his family to subdue Kui Mujing, as because of his transformation ability, he had devoured many families within the radius of the mountain in 3 years. Mujing retaliated by transforming into a monstrous entity, stating that a young member of the Zhong family could not contest him. Shen admired his resolve for being able to hold off his true form for half a month and proceeded to cultivate the blood-core sword to fight him off. With relative ease, Shen's power eradicated the cruel beast in a swift motion, leaving an explosion in its wake. Shen was offended by taking on such a task and thought that it was a waste of his talisman. He was glad to have obtained the demon crystal, even though it was a small achievement. A young child called out for his attention, informing him that he had followed his commands. Shen knew that the giant tree was the real body of Water Mujing, and with Shen defeating him in his human state, the giant tree also burst into flames and turned to ash. The matter was resolved, and Shen's efforts were rewarded. Shen looked forward to their next journey. That very night, Shiwu complained about their chosen location of rest and wondered if there were other demons on the mountain. Suddenly, Shen detected a strong chill enveloping the room. Opening the door and entering their place was a mysterious girl who instantly fainted on the ground. Shen observed her injuries and instructed Wu to bring over the transformation pill, a precious item that he was willing to deploy out of generosity. When Wu brought over the pill and headed over to the girl, he was shocked to realize that they were dealing with a demon. Shen explained that it was more characteristic of her to be a half-demon instead, as the girl seemed to be more similar to a mortal. Wu was surprised to note that Shen was feeding the pill to a demon to save her life. Fortunately, the girl woke after taking the potent transformation pill. Wu relieved and enlightened the girl about the situation, who thanked Shen for his efforts, but also warned them to run away. Her warning seemed to carry weight because the chill only became even stronger. A frightened Wu decided to hide behind his master. A group of 4 marched forth and had their own business pertaining to the ghost slave who had escaped. One of them advised the girl to stop hiding as her arrest was inevitable. The girl willingly obliged to go back with the group as long as they did not harm Shen and Wu. The man disagreed with her negotiation and declared that those who witnessed the work of the Ghost Guild must be exterminated. When he told Fire Girl to deal with the two, she explained that Shen had a magic weapon, implying that he was an immortal cultivator. Their leader stated that Shen possessed a weak aura in regard to the magical weapon, which meant he was just a casual cultivator that they did not need to be afraid of. Fire Girl channeled her powers to take on Shen and hurled her blaze strike on the opposing cultivator. A prepared Shen used his mystical item and channeled a water attribute attack to counter her flames.
Do you want to know the name of this manga, along with all the manga names of the recaps we did in our channel? How about also the chapter numbers our recaps end? You can simply ask the names in our Discord community for free or become a donor to get them all in one place. You can either be a donor in Patreon or be a member in our YouTube channel. Just scan this QR code or go to the link in the description to become a donor. Moreover, becoming a donor automatically makes you a VIP member of our Discord server with over tens of thousands of members.
Shen stated that the group was from the Dongyao Ghost House, which was famous for its despot and reckless tactics. Shen reminded them that they were in the Tianian prefecture instead of their local area. Peeved by his response, their leader inquired for his name and place of origin. Shen did not want to reveal his identity, but the loudmouth Wu explained that he was a member of the Zhong family who lived in the Tianan prefecture. The utterance of the Zhong family shocked the group leader, as it was one of the 36 immortal families. They demanded proof of his lineage, to which Shen replied by wielding the token of the immortal family. The group leader recognized the seal of the Zhong family and reflected that such families were willing to use unique iron to create identity tokens. The group leader claimed that Shen's cultivation level was likely at the foundation building level for his age, and since their captive had escaped, they did not plan on being stopped by his force. Shen replied that such beast slaves were originally ordinary people who were injected with beast blood by force to take their forms. That kind of unethical method was banned in Tiannan. Shen exclaimed that they could do nothing against him, especially considering their crimes. The fusion of the demon beast blood was forbidden in the prefecture because they possessed techniques to raise and foster demons. Shen was firm on his stance and instructed them to comply accordingly, going as far as to threaten them. Forced into a corner, the leader decided that despite the power of the Zhong family, they should not retreat because it jeopardized their reputation at the ghost house. Shen inquired if they were looking for a deal. The leader agreed, stating that they would be willing to free the girl so long as he could take the combined assault of the four. Fire Girl was confident of her boss's proposal, as not even an experienced cultivator in the late stages of their foundation could take their combined attack and run away uninjured. That was their perfect proposal to make Shen submit and retrieve the slave girl. Shen was advised against the proposal by Wu and the Beast Girl. She used to work as a servant for the former Ghost Mother and knew of spells, and despite that, her magic power at current had completely disappeared. The leader of the group had enough of her words and challenged Shen to accept their terms. Shen smiled and positioned himself for battle. The cocky leader and his group began their combined assault. Shen also prepared his cultivation weapon and began forming a barrier. The group's attack was a reinforced arrow strike of different magic, while Shen completed the barrier to welcome the attack. The formidable arrow struck the barrier and began to form cracks. Luckily, Shen was able to block it completely and extinguish its flames. However, the Submaster sword from within began to pierce through the barrier. Shen hurriedly used another coat of his water barrier to protect himself. With the new and improved barrier, Shen was able to survive the hit, leaving the leader and his group completely speechless. Even Fire Girl was impressed that someone made a joke out of their 4-phase arrow move, and she was certain enough to conclude that they were no match for Shen. Perhaps the most surprised was the group leader, who began to understand the gap between their true powers. Shen was a grand foundation-building cultivator in their eyes, despite being a mid-level cultivator. Embarrassed and defeated, they asked for his full name. Zhongshen introduced himself in kind. It was a name that was completely unheard of. The group left, stating that they would no longer interrupt his presence. With that, the Beast Girl was rescued and became indebted to his efforts. Shen queried Mu about what she knew of the ghost house's original owner. Mu vowed to explain everything that she knew of. Later, Shen sent her off to a safer location and wondered why the elders initiated the assassination, as well as a massive purge. The maidservant was also reduced to a beast slave in the end. Shen decided that it was best for them to head back and report the incident to the clan, and reflected that it was necessary to train harder as his battle performance was only average. 3 months flew by since then. A disciple awaited Shen's presence. At the Zhong's training room, Shen meditated in seclusion and broke through the late-stage foundation building. He could now enter the advanced level and was happy to do so. Not only that, he was able to increase the potency of his cultivation with the moon water. Shen deemed it necessary to refine more of his spiritual energy. He was compelled to fulfill his mother's last wish. The Zhong family was one of the 36 families that cultivated immortals. Their power being superior, they never accepted any outsiders. There was also a stark difference in natural talent and resources in the disciples based on their rightful birth. The legitimate disciples had an advantage over those that were not. And Shen just so happened to be one of those poorly talented disciples who could cultivate at the lowest level with low talent. Shen was greeted by Zhong Tu upon the completion of his training cycle, who informed him that their third brother, Zhong Yun, was facing off against Zhong Jingqi in the ring of life and death, alarming Shen. The crowd gathered at the arena and observed the fight taking place. Jingqi was a famous genius among the legitimate sons and had entered the final stage of the foundation only a year ago. On the other hand, Yun was a lowly son of a concubine. Shen made his way to the forefront and observed the fight. He explained that their battle could no longer be stopped. The tradition of the life and death ring followed the participants should win regardless of their state of life and death. Shen reflected that Yun always had a calm demeanor, while Jingqi was the talented son of the elders. There was a considerable gap in their abilities despite the similarities in their foundation building. When Shen asked what had happened between the two, he explained that Murong Xuan, who was originally Yun's wife, had left to pursue Jingqi. Shen was frustrated by the news because this had resulted in a life-and-death battle between the two brothers while she laughed. His serious composure towards her startled Xuan. Shen worried for Zhong Yun as he was facing off in a battle to the death. He hoped for him not to lose. Yun tried to attack Jingqi with his cultivation spell, but it was blocked by the more talented disciple, who proceeded to block and counter his maneuvers. Jingqi taunted him for being incapable of taking him down. He also reminded the boy that this match very much guaranteed his death if he lost. Yun entertained the idea of winning, and in response, Jinqi mocked him for being an illegitimate disciple who could not hold his own. Yun bolstered that if he won, he required Jinqi to free Murong Shuang. Obviously, a response aimed at his wife was unappreciated, so an agitated Jinqi decided to hurl his venomous spider liquid at him. The potent poison affected the nearby disciples as well, but Shen used his barrier to protect himself. Yun was struck by the same poisonous fluid, causing him a burn. Jinqi mocked him for acting tough momentarily, and became exhilarated at the thought of killing him. Yun was overwhelmed by the attack, so much so that he collapsed to the ground in a state of shock. Xuan was best pleased with this outcome, while Shen showed a blank expression. What stood over them was Jinqi, who was content with getting rid of his opponent. Shen restrained himself and his fellow disciple from entering the match, and decided to entrust the outcome to Yun, thinking that he was aware of the consequences of losing. After all, that was his determination as a man. Jinqi observed the stunned and unconscious body of his opponent, and thought that it was a waste of his time. Shen and the others hoped for him to get up once again, when suddenly, Yun rose up and immediately attacked Jinqi. A stunned Yun stood face to face with his opponent. A startled Jinqi thought that he had already lost consciousness. He wanted him to concede the battle to him, reminding Yun that he would die due to the effects of the poison. Despite that, Yun grabbed him and questioned how he was able to enter the ring of life and death with feeble determination. He launched a fiery blow afterward, despite the pleading of Jinqi, who was ready to hand him the cure for the poison. Yun scorched the side of his face, leaving Jinqi collapsed on the ground. The battle was officially over, with Yun crowned as the official victor. Shen and the others were impressed. The victory of the illegitimate disciple had caused an outrage, as it scrutinized the reputation of the legitimate disciples. Yun observed the reaction of Murong Xuan, who seemed to be annoyed by the outcome. As Yun was about to faint, he was assisted by Shen and his fellow disciple, who commended him for this victory. The aftermath of the battle left a mark on the reputation of the disciples. One of the elders was shocked to confirm that Jinqi was injured against an illegitimate disciple during battle. When the elder asked about Jinqui's injury, he was told that it meant Kui was under threat due to the poison. This annoyed the elder, who ordered him to be taken to the seclusion room for cultivation until he entered the advanced foundation level. The elder trusted the first of the 3 elite disciples, stating that it was unacceptable for his brother to be bullied by an illegitimate disciple. He issued an order for him to ensure a message to the illegitimate disciples, never to offend the official disciples of the Zhong family. The boy accepted and took responsibility for handling the matter, vowing to keep it inconspicuous in front of others. The elder could not help but wonder about the approaching event that was to come. Inside the floating ship of the immortal warriors, a few of them were engaged in battle, terrifying the outsiders who observed from below. The sky began to warp, forming an electrifying portal that gave birth to a giant palace appearing out of the skies. They questioned if it were a demon or another entity, leaving the elder to explain that it was the appearance of the famous Nightmare Palace. At the highest peak of the Zhong family, Shen met with his uncle Qing, who relayed that his father promised him to make a reasonable request upon reaching the Grand Foundation level. He confirmed if Shen was truly interested in requesting a lipid pill instead, reminding him of the use. Shen assured him he was fine with taking the blood lipid pills. Qing handed him the pills, and advised Shen to visit the Epic Pavilion to buy more pills and other inventory because he may require them very soon. The Nightmare Palace was an event of nature that appeared every 60 years, a space that was said to be opened by a mysterious power. The location was random in each occurrence, but there was no doubt that it opened in the Tiana prefecture. It was a small world of its own that was rich in spiritual medicine and materials. A special pill would open upon reaching the heavenly divine peak, and by absorbing such a pill, a cultivator greatly improved his chances of succession, the condensation of one's core. It was the ultimate spiritual elixir with unmatched powers. The Nightmare Palace was incomparably vast, leaving many places undiscovered where no one had set foot. Yun inquired why the clan only sent foundation-building disciples instead of the elders because of its benefits. Shen explained that those who were above the Golden Core could not enter the Nightmare Palace, as when someone who succeeded in condensing the core stepped inside, the palace would ban them and forbid entry. Shen was one of the few disciples who were eligible to enter the Nightmare Palace. Yun knew that the Nightmare Palace was a dangerous location as every time it appeared, only half of the disciples made out alive, which was still a proud achievement considering the risks. Shen was confident in his abilities and wanted to go. He was motivated to surpass the 3 elite disciples who were also participating in the dangerous event. Shen shared his lipid pill with Yun, stating that it was necessary for healing his body. Yun also had something to gift Shen. He brought open a mystical box, which was revealed to have a unique emblem inside. Yun inquired if he knew about the bloodline mark. Shen explained that one could tap into the demon beast's powerful abilities by forcing it on the cultivator's body as a seal. Yun confirmed, informing him that it was a blank bloodline seal plate, allowing Shen to form a seal by injecting the blood of a demon beast into it. Shen was amazed that Yun was able to get his hands on such a rare item. It was a treasure that had been passed down from Yun's ancestors, and he wanted to use it for the Nightmare Palace, but could no longer do so in light of his condition. Yun entrusted the item to Shen, who treated him well. Shen shared that such an item was more invaluable than the lipid pill he had just shared. At the Lingshan Square Market, Shen wanted to buy the best blood worthy of the item that he received from his third brother. The shopkeeper informed him of the shortage of demonic beast blood, which was an extremely rare material. Shen was surprised to note that it was much more expensive than usual, but that was only natural because of the birth of the Nightmare Palace. Shen had more issues with the blood power and refused to buy. The shopkeeper was amazed that Shen refused to bargain at the price and wondered if he could sell him something more expensive. He called out for Shen once more and explained that he possessed one more item with amazing blood power. Shen was shown the premium egg of the ancient demon. Shen inspected the object and felt its power. He inquired about its price and was told that it was a staggering 2 million in spiritual jades. When Shen was about to finish the trade, he was stopped by a red-haired cultivator who objected to the sale, claiming that it was the dead egg of a stone dove. The shopkeeper howled at the cultivator for spouting nonsense, but he only continued, stating that it was indeed just an egg of the stone dove, which was the most useless among all of the demon beasts. At a loss for words, the shopkeeper advised Shen not to listen to the fellow. Shen enlightened the stranger that it was a closed market reserved for the Zhong family, and he could tell by just looking at the cultivator that they did not belong to the Zhong family. The cultivator was shocked that Shen turned against him despite his support. Shen questioned how he was able to get inside without being a member of the Zhong family and advised him to leave quickly. The outsider did as he was told and leaped away, scoffing at the ignorance of Shen. Shen turned his attention to the shopkeeper who nearly made the expensive, unethical sale. He decided to take the demon beast egg home and reflected on having seen a particular image upon touching the egg. It was just not an ordinary dove. It was actually the ancient and ferocious 9-head ghost dove who, in its adult state, could wallow phoenixes and dragons. Shen knew that the bloodline mark was only capable of utilizing 1 or 2% of the beast's natural strength, but it was enough for the Nightmare Palace. Shen was lucky that the shopkeeper was aware only that it was an ordinary dove's egg. Otherwise, the price would not have been low. He questioned the image he saw when touching the egg and wondered if his bloodline was related. He put rest to his contemplation and decided to practice the bloodline mark. 5 days flew by, and on came the fateful day. Shen emerged after he trained to accompany the young master too. The scene switched to the glorious Nightmare Palace, a place to be challenged by the Zhong family. Shen and the other disciples were told to honor their family's name by doing their best to survive. The Nightmare Palace was one to open every 60 years, giving all immortal cultivators a chance to grasp the countless treasures inside. It was the place where Shen thought he could alter his destiny once and for all. The gate of the Nightmare Palace looked like any other palace, but it was rather a gigantic secret realm, full of mystery and unusual things, from mountains and rivers to deserts. Everything was possible in this world. Shen wondered where he should go after realizing that the gate of the palace cast a forbidden movement spell. Suddenly, a deadly sensation crept up from behind, causing him to turn and be startled. What stood just behind was a gigantic stone statue that was originally not there. Shen turned away from the object, realizing that it released a murderous aura. He felt it was crucial to escape before feeling its wrath. Meanwhile, on the other side, the new ghost mother questioned how much of her power the original could harness while being reduced to a pitiful state. The original ghost mother replied that she had never thought of her sister betraying her and planning the attack at a critical moment of her training. Their battle was an inevitable one, and yet the new ghost mother could not help but taunt her sister for possessing only a fraction of her original powers because of the Nightmare Palace's interference. To her shock, the original ghost mother appeared right in front of her. The next morning, Shen managed to find the location he desired at last. The Heavenly Warrior Pavilion was one place in the palace that attracted a large number of cultivators. However, another annoyance recently was the girl that he had accidentally saved only a few days ago. Zhong reminded her that he only did so as a kind gesture for being the outsider disciple of the Zhong family. He made it clear that he would not be able to take care of her if she continued following him. Xuan expressed that she wanted to take on the Heavenly Warrior Pavilion as a rare opportunity and refused to back off. She was dazzled by Shen, who was more focused on finding a way to enter through the door. The place itself was an abandoned old city, and despite its lack of demon beasts, there were countless ancient puppets inside. Among the palace's other places, this was no exception. The city of puppets only had the Heavenly Warrior Pavilion as its center, which served as a 3-story building with countless ancient magic weapons, as well as a large number of inactive puppets hidden inside. Many of the cultivators flocked to the palace each time it opened because of the fact. Suddenly, an object descended from the skies and crashed right in front of Shen. The person exiting the chambers of the object is none other than the red-haired cultivator Shen met at the market. They were both surprised, having met each other again. Shuang realized that this was Yue Qianchu, the cultivator who infamously claimed to be a prodigy who appeared once in 1,000 years. Chasing him were two other cultivators, so Yue Qianju decided it was best to hide away. Tang Hongling and Zhang Yiyun were eager to compete with the cultivator and wondered if they could force him into a battle. They were also surprised that someone else arrived at the pavilion before them. Yiyun realized that they were the illegitimate disciples of the Zhang family. Xuan observed that Yiyun was one of the 3 genius disciples of the family, while Hongling was the first young cultivator of Tianan. Shen decided to feign ignorance past both of them, and even though Yiyun had issues with his behavior, Hongling suggested that they should just wait to see if he could open the gate of the pavilion. Shen approached the legendary gate, reflecting that it was now time for him to test out the true might of the 9-headed ghost dove. He used his mystical powers to harness the power of the demon beast and surged it in the direction of the gate. His punch geared an explosive response, actually managing to crack open the gate. Yiyun could not believe her eyes, while Hongling reasoned that the disciple was using a mysterious ability to greatly amplify his powers. An hour had passed since they broke their way inside the pavilion. Another group comprising Gongsun Yuanwu and his fellow disciples came marching forth. Yuanwu was arrogant with the information he contained regarding a heavenly-level puppet who could only be subdued during the long sleep period on the 4th floor of the Heavenly Warrior Pavilion. He considered himself quite powerful because of the information he possessed. Yuanwu was shocked to observe that someone had made an entrance to the inside of the pavilion before him and sought to take the treasures from them. Back to the scene of the Ghost Mothers, Mu Wan'er reigned supreme in her plans by imparting a fraction of her soul into the body of a maid. Her sister was impressed that she possessed this much strength and immediately channeled her powers to take her down a second time. Inside the Heavenly Warrior Pavilion, Xuan was dazzled to witness the sword-testing pavilion, which was known to appear as an indifferent location. They were lucky to have encountered it, and in its center remained the world's most famous sword, a sword that nobody else had been able to pull out completely. Xuan decided to give it a try and did her best to pull the sword out, except it remained immovable despite her best efforts. Shen was embarrassed by her strength, reflecting that it did not even make an inch of a difference. Xuan acknowledged the weight of the sword, realizing that it was the reason no one else could pull it out. She also thought Shen was incapable of pulling it out, as he was not one of the 3 elite disciples. Shen decided to give it a try, observing the legendary Jinga sword. He used his might to grip the sword, and with great difficulty was able to pull it out by little. Shen realized that the weight of the sword only increased each time it was pulled out, which meant it was far more difficult for him to keep the sword from falling back. With the use of his spell, Shen managed to pull out the sword at last, accomplishing a miracle. Meanwhile, Hongling observed that she was incapable of subduing the stone soldier, especially when her teammates were quarreling about it. Yiyun was busy slandering Qianzu again. Coincidentally, Shen and Xuan bumped into their group again. Hongling explained that the 3rd floor's gatekeeper was tricky to deal with. She was interrupted by the loudmouth Yuanwu, who investigated the culprit responsible for stealing his legendary Jinga sword. Hongling declared that one could make anything of the Nightmare Palace their own with their strength, and such a sword was too difficult to obtain in 1,000 years. Shocking them all, Shen revealed that he obtained the sword, impressing the group while they wondered about his identity. Yuanwu began complaining and urged him to surrender the sword at once. Shen displayed a blank expression and showed no interest in returning the sword. Yuanwu was forced to use his magic. Shen countered with magic of his own, reminding him that he should not look for things that do not belong to him. They were in awe to witness his command over the mystical sword. A battered and bruised Yuanwu managed to survive the attack and exclaimed that it was the talisman of their ancestors that allowed him to restrain the magical weapons. He was glad to have obtained the blade at once and decided to wield it. Shen displayed no worry and channeled the power of his ghost dove. After an embarrassing display of being unable to control the Jinga sword, Yuanwu conceded defeat. Hongling ordered him to silently obey their whims if he wanted to accompany them, while the red-haired Qianzu stood pondering the extent of Shen's abilities. After collectively defeating the stone warrior, they proceeded to ascend to the next floor. Qianzu peeved Shen regarding how he managed to pull out the Jinga sword, while Yiyun recalled that Xuan was the girl who caused the fights between Jinkui and the illegitimate disciple Yun. They arrived at the designated 3rd floor of the pavilion, with Qianzu questioning why there was only a small treasure chest. Shen observed the stone statue and realized that it was the same as at the entrance, wondering how it suddenly appeared again. Yiyun commented that the stone statue at the back was the guardian, which they needed to defeat to get the treasure inside. She initiated her assault, but was taken down in one strike. The stone statue knocked down the 3 elite disciples of the Zhong family with ease, which only meant they needed to team up to defeat it. Chianzu used his puppet soldiers to busy the statue while Hongling rushed. Yuanwu used his talismans to suppress the statue, declaring it a type of magic weapon. However, he was shocked when the statue burned his talismans with ease. During this climactic power struggle, Shen just stood without doing much. The group was in dire trouble as all of their efforts so far proved to be fruitless. Suddenly the statue was faced with an aerial assault from above. Shen used his Starry Sky ability to rain down a pit of magical swords. The sword powerfully struck down and destroyed the statue in a clean strike. Yuanwu was able to obtain the talisman from the statue and revealed that his ancestors discovered something that no one else knew about. The talisman was a gate to the 4th floor of the Heavenly Warrior Pavilion. The revelation shocked everyone, including Shen, who did not know of the 4 floor's existence. In excitement, Chianzu rushed forth to check out the 4th floor. Shen also followed, realizing that it was worthwhile to keep Yuanwu in their company. The remaining party chose to focus on the treasure box instead. Shen and Chianzu were the only ones to have stepped foot inside the 4th floor of the pavilion. They immediately laid their eyes on a puppet. Shen commented that he had never heard about the 4th floor of the pavilion, while Chianzu exclaimed that all of the mechanical treasures belonged to him. Shen took up the challenge, reminding him that it depended on his capabilities. Suddenly they felt a trembling feeling from the ground. Dozens of mechanical puppets surrounded the two. Shen stated that it was best for them to join forces for a while to defeat the puppets instead. Chianzu acknowledged his strength as he was able to open the gate of the pavilion and simultaneously obtain the Jinga sword. Shen observed his abilities closely and realized that he was using the mechanical art of the Yue family. The duo stood to cover each other's back and welcomed the myriads of puppets surrounding them. Their epic battle began with Chianzu and Shen destroying the puppets with their respective abilities. The floor level seemed far too weak for their abilities, leading Shen to wonder if there was something more. Suddenly, the shattered fragments of the puppets began rising to form a new puppet. Shen and Chianzu observed and were shocked to realize that the puppets became stronger after replenishing their powers. Shen could not help but wonder about the reasons behind the sudden rise in strength, as it was only weak in the beginning. He knew that the situation would turn unfavorable if the monsters increased their strengths without limitations. He was also saved by Chianzu while being lost in thought. Chianzu offered that someone else was controlling the puppets from behind the scenes, and they needed to be brought down in order to subdue the group. Shen offered his suspicion that the puppet controlling its underlings was the one guarding the treasure chest, even though it was just another puppet. Shen offered that it could possess some kind of consciousness. In response to his words, Chianzu used a greater extent of his art and decided to target the puppet from henceforth. Shen was amazed by the display of his strength. Chianzu approached the golden puppet, deciding to take it down for once. However, his consciousness soon faded the moment he laid his eyes on the puppet. When he was about to be struck by one of its beams, Shen intervened and reflected that there was something odd about the mannequin. The demonic puppet commended the lowly human for standing in its presence. The pressure was enough to make Shen uneasy. He soon lost consciousness and fell. Upon regaining his consciousness, Shen was shocked to discover that he was still alive. He wondered where he was and could not comprehend the improvement in his eyesight. The puppet commented that it was due to the divine consciousness that became several times greater than before. The puppet reminded him that he observed only a fraction of its soul, but still gained a remarkable improvement. Shen realized that the subsidiary soul of the 9-headed ghost dove became responsible for saving him. The puppet enlightened him that he was just a foundation-building cultivator and could withstand the wrath of the heavenly-level puppet. Shen was terrified to learn that he was of such a level and wondered if he condensed the crystal soul to take over his body. The puppet confirmed that he had not expected his bloodline's power to be so strange, and instead, his own part of a soul was swallowed to strengthen Shen's consciousness. The heavenly puppet gave him a dilemma: to become its slave, or he could tear him to pieces and ensure death. Peeved by his level, Shen could not shake off the fact that he was in the presence of the divine-level puppet, who questioned if the boy was still doubting his powers. Thankfully, the puppet was frightened by the subsidiary soul of the ghost dove inside of Shen. Shen acknowledged that he had no significant strength in front of the powerful puppet, but still refused to give up. In response to his resolve, the puppet changed the conditions of his deal, stating that Shen was qualified to make an equal soul contract with him instead. Chianzu's consciousness awoke to witness the collapse of the 4th floor. Shen hurried for them to leave at once. The puppet showed the way to the portal, and they successfully teleported outside the Nightmare Palace. The puppet had unexpectedly signed this contract with Shen, but thought it was rewarding. After teleportation, Chianzu raised his questions regarding the collapse of the floor and the mysterious puppet. Shen reflected that he had eaten part of King Jin's soul and resultantly grew stronger. He also signed a contract with the puppet while Qianzu returned only empty-handed. Shen explained that King Jin was the guardian of the warrior pavilion who sought an escape because of loneliness. Qianzu was more dazzled by the unique appearance of the puppet, instead often treasures he lost on the 4th floor. Surprisingly, King Jin addressed him as a girl, something that Shen dearly took note of. Qianzu inquired if Shen was aware of the Shending Peak and stated that the special pill grew from such a place. It was the main goal for the cultivators entering the palace, a divine weapon to enhance all of cultivation. Saying that, he left. King Jin tasked Shen to claim his divine consciousness. He was able to sharpen his vision to see people from many miles away. Shen wondered if his other abilities also leveled up as a result of attaining such a consciousness. King Jin explained that he would abide by the soul contract and assist him during battle, except that he would not listen to commands. He also shared that it was likely for the pill to appear in 2 days, meaning they needed to hurry. Shen requested him to change his appearance to something more inconspicuous, which he did by transforming into a furry fellow. At the Yue family, Qianzu was welcomed by his father, who was the head of the family. He was asked about his findings regarding the trip to the pavilion. Qianzu shared having discovered the 4th floor of the Heavenly Warrior Pavilion. However, when he was asked about the treasures he obtained, Qianzu could not speak of a confident response, not having attained any. His father reprimanded him and questioned about the battle regarding the Shending Peak. Yue Qianzu was confident in his abilities and stated that he would never lose to the elite disciples Dao Tian and Hongling. Just as he was about to leave, his father stopped him as they had another matter to discuss. The head of the family shared that because Qianzu was the family's representative and son, he was forced to marry either Yi Yun's or Hongling's family, something that was necessary for him to choose. Near the Shending Peak, we were shown a meditating Daotian who had mastered the power of the pure void. He was adamant in his superiority against all others, including the likes of Hongling. When queried about the whereabouts of the elite disciple Jinlong, Daotian replied that he had not seen him since they separated at the Ghost Gate. Yi Yun wondered if he had died, but Daotian only begged to differ. He couldn't comprehend how Jinlong could succumb to such a situation. Daotian had just learned body refining and sought to master it further. He asked about Yi Yun's meeting with Qianzu, who replied that not much had happened as, despite their chase, he had slipped away. Daotian mused, wondering who was the stronger person, Hongling or Qianzu. Yi Yun also shared having bumped into the half-brother Zhang Shen, but Daotian was disinterested and strongly opposed hearing about him. Yi Yun decided to spill that Zhang Shen was a formidable force in battle. Daotian reminded her of their status as the legitimate genius disciples of the family. Yi Yun scoffed at him for thinking just like the elders of their clan and left without any interest in proving her point. The scene switched to Shen's side of things, who had reached the Shending Peak and felt the spiritual power of the terrain. He was peeved, having bumped into Xuan again, and accompanying her was Yi Yun, who interrogated Shen about his whereabouts in the pavilion. King Jin insisted that he come up with an excuse. Shen decided to state that the 4th floor was imbued with a powerful forbidden spell, which caused the Heavenly Warrior Pavilion to collapse once they stepped in. He claimed that both himself and Qianzu were nearly buried as a result of the collapse. Yi Yun insisted that they team up, which basically ruined Shen's plans. Yi Yun shared that she admired his real strength, having seen it at first glance during the Heavenly Warrior Pavilion quest. She offered for them to take the Tai Yi pill together. The eruptions of the pill happened extremely quickly, and there were always the real pills mixed with the fake. It was an impossible endeavor for one person to handle everything on their own, and the clan also insisted that the first pill could be consumed while the rest would be used to exchange for spirit jades. Yi Yun thought that their plan would be a great success if they cooperated. Shen was speechless for a moment, but after Shuang's insistence as well, they decided to team up together. We were shown the inside of the Shending Peak, where the missing genius disciple Zhang Jinlong was undertaking a secret mission. At long last, he had finally found it. He had found the place that nurtured the Tai Yi pills in the Nightmare Palace. This sacred place was known as the Essence Pool. Jinlong successfully managed to track it down because of his father's secret information. He also decided to counter the lightning and fire forbidden spell thanks to the artifact he was granted. Jinlong celebrated, having discovered the treasures he sought. However, he became startled when he heard the sounds of 2 other beings creeping from behind. Jinlong could not believe how others had made it before him in this sacred place. It was revealed to be the original Ghost Mother who was held captive by her sister and led to the Essence Pool. Jinlong questioned who they were. The original Ghost Mother exclaimed that ridding her powers, she used a foundation building level to lead them there. Jinlong could not believe that he was standing close to the original Ghost Mother as well as her sister. The original Ghost Mother was once again asked about the location of the soul-gathering orb. She expressed that it was hidden in the Essence Pool. Because of her response, the evil sister turned her attention to Jinlong and instructed him to fetch the item from the bottom of the pool. Despite his reluctance, she pushed him into the pool. Jinlong splashed inside the pool, a pool that was also home to a gigantic creature. Horrified by the monster lurking inside the pool, she questioned her sister for an answer. The original ghost mother explained that it was just a pet she had nourished in the pool. And thus began the quest for the Tai pills on Daotian and Shen's ends. King Jin could not shake off the weird familiarity he felt while in Xuan's presence. Shen thought that it was probably a mistake, because King Jin had only been stuck on the 4th floor for eternity. King Jin replied that his familiarity ringed a memory of something in the past. He urged Shen to continue their quest for the Tai pill. Finally, the eruption from the peak began. The original ghost mother was threatened to open the box, and so she commanded the item to be opened with her speech. The soul-gathering orb was finally in her sister's grasp at long last. However, she was shocked when the box opened at the entrance of the Nightmare Palace. The curse of the palace began restraining her as she cursed out her sister, until finally she was trapped and taken away by the forces. Mu, the original ghost mother, was glad to get rid of her annoying sister at last, and realized that the eruption of the Tai pills was about to commence. Yi Yun signaled for Shen to become ready. The eruption took place at last, scattering the many pills across the island. The many cultivators fought to acquire the pills and fended off each other. However, just about all of them seemed to be fake. Shen noticed that the fake pills were only gaseous forms of spiritual energy, and instead of wasting his time on gathering every fake pill, he decided to adopt a different strategy. Shen located the real pill and was able to clutch it at last. Alongside him, Yue Qianzu and Zhong Daotian also obtained the pill. Yun thought that their first hurdle was a success with Shen obtaining the pill. He informed them that their second round was about to start. A second eruption followed with a cataclysmic explosion. Yun was shocked to note that the number of pills was immensely lower than usual. Shen also felt something odd, as he could only grab the real one in the first round. He sensed an unusually strong aura and used his powers to realize that the elite pill had appeared. Shen raced to obtain it at once, but the others also managed to find out about it. Qianzu faced off against Daoshin, and they battled to obtain the elite pill with all their might. Shen used their battle as a crutch to obtain the pill for himself. However, his efforts were subsided with Hongling's interruptions. She stopped him, stating that it was best for them to compete for the pill and award it to the winner. Daoshin ordered Shen to hold them back while he obtained the pill for their clan. Shen countered, having acquired an interest in taking the pill himself, something that greatly annoyed his half-brother. Qianzu commented that the pill could not be divided into 4, so the best way to resolve it would be to fight. Daoshin was prideful in his abilities, and questioned if Hongling really believed she was the best in Tianan. Shen was fine with the prospect of fighting, but wondered if someone else could steal it during their battle. Qianzu thought that his complaint was valid, and offered that they join forces to form 4 formations to protect the pill from the others while they were busy fighting. Hongling was content with the idea, with the emblems of vermilion bird, white tiger, azure dragon, and black tortoise. The group encased the elite pill in a strong barrier. This potent formation was unable to be trespassed, as it was the combined might of the 4 most formidable cultivators. Qianzu decided to take Daoshin as his opponent, as he had an interest in opposing the power of Void. Their battle started against each other, while Shen wondered who would win between the two. King Jin shared that he should instead worry about his safety, as Hongling channeled her ferocious fire magic to fight against Shen. She thought of Shen highly, and wanted to see which one of them would come out on top. Shen was glad to take her on, and was honored to face the best disciple of the young generation. Their battle also began with 2 opposing energies. The spectating cultivators preferred watching the fight between Zhong Daotian and his opponent, Yue Qianzu. Daotian was annoyed by Qianzu's constant evasion. Qianzu shared that he was majorly undermined by the extent of his opponent's powers. Daotian countered that an outsider like him knew nothing about the depth of his powers in the void. He decided it was best to go all out, revealing that he possessed a bloodline mark on his chest. Daoshin accessed the powers of the bloodline mark and used void incarnation to bring phantasms into the fight. Qianzu retaliated but suffered a tremendous blow when Daotian bridged apart space. In a necessary moment, Qianzu summoned his black tortoise to enter the fight. The entity came and enveloped itself around Qianzu. Qianzu stated that the void did have immense power, but he possessed something far greater than the likes of Hongling and Daotian. Daoshin decided to take on the challenge, but was immediately struck by Qianzu's chains, who also shared that his tortoise had mastered the void. He advised Daoshin to admit defeat as soon as possible. Daoshin, who was at a loss and could do nothing to add to his fight, decided to test the power of Qianzu's earth-level puppet with his special body-refining techniques. Daotian activated his special ability and attained a heightened physical state. He tapped into the power of the Ape King with his newly acquired state. Chianzu observed that the three-handed ape bloodline was a commendable feat by having reached such powers of the void. Their battle resumed, with Daoqian succumbing to Chianzu into his void. Shen observed over to glance at their battle and wondered if Chianzu was holding up all right. However, as a result of being distracted, he was nearly hit by a blast himself. Hongling advised him to pay attention to his battle. She readied a special beam strike for him. King Jin was impressed by her abilities. Shen decided to tap into the powers of the nine-headed ghost dove to respond in kind. Chianzu wondered if Daoqian had planned to trap him inside the void. He used his shield and broke apart the void, only to restrain Daoqian again with his chains. Daoqian pounced away as a means to escape, but it was impossible as the chains caught up to him and entrapped his body into place. With his body fully restrained, Chianzu decided it was best to land the finishing blow, but stopped just before the strike reached Daoqian. It was clear to Daoqian that he had lost and reverted back to his normal state. Shen also bumped into them with a defeated body of Hongling, sharing that he too had come out as a victor in their battle. Daoqian was observably shocked that someone of his caliber could take down the legendary disciple Hongling. The other cultivators were also shocked to wonder about Shen's identity, as Hongling was widely considered the strongest of their generation. Chianzu was happy to take him on next, but Shen thought it was just a matter of luck. He was surprised by Chianzu's performance during battle, sharing that he was certain Daoqian's power of the void would give him a confident chance of winning. However, he was shocked to note that Chianzu's full strength was unparalleled in its own right. Yiyun noted that Shen, despite being strong, was unexpectedly even stronger than the likes of Hongling. Chianzu replied that he still had yet to put all of his strength into the battle and only used 70% of his abilities. Shen was shocked to hear this, but Chianzu only confirmed that he could confidently fight a golden core cultivator with the black turtle puppet armor and his machine techniques. Now the battle was between Shen and Chianzu, both of whom readied their blades to come against each other. Their oppositely charged forces were about to be struck against each other, when both of them noticed an unusual aura forming from the peak. It was something that cultivators all across the world had been pursuing. Something was going very clearly wrong with the peak, which caused great concern to all of those in the area. When Shen asked Jin what was taking place, he explained that the void distortion and other events spelled bad news. They needed to get out as fast as possible. However, Shen was unable to move his body and succumbed to the void. His body was transported into a spatial dimension where Xuan woke him from his slumber. Shen realized that it was no coincidence that the two were sent to the location at the same time. Greeting them was the man known as Shi Ming. The mysterious master crossed by Shen without notice and hailed Xuan as his superior. Xuan was astonished as to why she was considered such a being. Ming explained that there was no doubt in regard to her aura. She was the reincarnation of the master of the Nightmare Palace itself. Xuan asked for Shen's support, something which Ming did not appreciate. He claimed that he only brought Shen because of a simple reason. Using his powers, Ming separated Shen's body from King Jin, who came out of his hiding. Ming preferred for Xuan to take a walk to a different location to explain what was taking place. King Jin explained that this was the reason he felt familiar with Xuan back then. Xuan questioned if she could retrieve the memories of her past life and powers by jumping into the fire of the netherworld. Ming confirmed the fact as he had been waiting for years. She was worried that she would lose her current identity as a consequence of returning to her old self. Ming confessed that the art of reincarnation was unpredictable, so he could not guarantee certainty. However, he knew that the memories of two different lives could coexist, and her current self would not disappear. Xuan thought it was worth the risk if she could obtain the great powers of her past. She sought a favor from the master before doing so. Shen quietly waited until Ming reappeared. He tossed her bag full of treasures that could not be found elsewhere, conveying that it could greatly aid Shen's powers as he possessed the blood of the ghost dove. King Jin was also given a fragment to restore his previous strength over time. Shen questioned why he was given such treasures without an explanation. Ming chose not to answer and sent them away back to their world. Ming queried his master because she was considerate of Shen. The new and reformed Xuan explained that the Nightmare Palace was a place where the weak could only enter by following the strong, and without Shen's constant protection, she would have died. She was fond of him as a person. Soon after that, all of the disciples were moved from the Nightmare Palace. The mysterious palace disappeared once again to the same state it was 60 years ago. However, no one knew that it would never return because of Xuan's reincarnated body. Inside the Zhong family, Shen was transported back and wondered if Zhong Yu's injury from the poison had gotten any better. He decided to visit the second and third brothers in the morning and was stopped by Mu, the maid that he had rescued. Her childlike appearance shook Shen, while King Jin explained that there was a decrease in cultivation in the nascent soul realm, as was evident from the low output of the original Ghost Mother. Shen confirmed that when he was told in detail about the dispute, he suspected what would happen. The Ghost Mother explained that she was cautious because of her cultivation decrease, thanks to the conflict shared with her sister. She also relayed being grateful for Shen's efforts, as despite tricking her sister into the Hall of Demons, she was unable to return to the ghost house of her own volition. As a consequence, she wanted to be under Shen's care for recovery. King Jin suggested that it was fine to have her seep with the heavenly primordial stone, as he had found success in recovering his own strength. Shen wondered if he should really take in the Ghost Mother from the Chiwan prefecture, and decided to do so. The very next morning, he wondered why Yun's rooms were locked shut. After forcefully entering the room, he found Zhongtu crying on his bed. It was explained that Yun passed shortly after Shen entered the Nightmare Palace, as Elder Yuefeng issued a clan mission to him. Jinkui and Yun were at odds, and Yuefeng the Elder just so happened to be Jinkui's father. Zhongtu was naturally worried and decided to accompany them to the Valley of No Return to collect herbs. Yun and his efforts fended off the beasts. They were successful in the end and obtained the necessary medicines. Just as they were about to leave, Yun and Tu were stopped by another presence. They were bewildered by the powers of the spider lily, causing Yun great worry. He succumbed to its forces while Zhongtu was restrained. The one responsible for concocting the plan was Jinkui, who wanted to frame them for being taken out by the demonic spider lily without his interference. Jinki decided to banish Yun as revenge for ruining his face. It was the wicked schemes of Jinki and his father to devise such a plan that led to his demise. Jinki was glad to have executed Yun by himself, and thought that no one else would oppose the true disciples of the clan. Yuefeng was sad to hear that Jinlong died in the Nightmare Palace, but Jin Kui was confident they would surpass him someday. Yuefeng felt a murderous intent from behind and attacked the one responsible, challenging the elder of the Golden Core level. Standing to oppose him was Shen, who had come here to avenge Yun's death. Yuefeng realized that it was the illegitimate son of the Zhong family, someone who was a lowly servant in his eyes. He was quick to be shocked when Shen cast a spell that nearly killed the elder. Shen clarified that Yuefeng had killed his brother and also insulted his relatives. Yuefeng became triggered by being accused in such a way and channeled his mystical powers to kill Shen. Despite his best efforts, Shen was able to block the attack and used his art. Yuefeng thought little of Shen as his powers could easily wipe out a youngling of the foundation level in cultivation. However, Shen boasted his control over the powers of the ghost dove and expressed that it was a mistake to take him lightly. Yuefeng was startled to note that Shen had also crossed the Golden Core realm. Shen contemplated having taken advantage of the palace's disappearance to break through the Golden Core thanks to the efforts of King Jin. Yuefeng was also shocked to note that he possessed the legendary Jinga sword. He set his eyes on his prize and assaulted Shen with his Flood Dragon technique. Shen welcomed the attack in open arms and cast his phantasm to counter the dragon. Yuefeng's best efforts were crushed in a mere instant as he fell to the ground. Shen stated that he had no interest in killing him. However, he turned his attention to a trembling Jinkui, who claimed that he was not part of his father's schemes. Jinkui begged to be spared when he realized that his life was coming to an end. Meanwhile, Qing informed his master that after the investigation, the conclusion was deemed correct. The Patriarch was aware of Yuefeng acting ignorant despite his son's murder, but he was most surprised about Shen's performance to behave in such a way. Qing thought that Shen was adequate in sparing them and only destroyed parts of their souls. The Patriarch of the family had yet to make a decision on the matter and wanted Qing to announce the consequence to be a result of overtraining, hoping that the rest of his clan heeded this warning. When left alone, he confessed to wanting his child to live in peace with the family, but Shen had exceeded his expectations in a short period. He wondered if his mother was also happy for him. Meanwhile, Shen honored Yun's grave and desired to become strong enough to protect his cherished loved ones. When he appeared right in front of the same shopkeeper from before, he hastily slammed the door shut. This made Shen remember the first time he met Qianzu, realizing that the strange fellow had no idea of Zhong's family rules. It was also the fact that they had yet to conclude the victor of their battle, as Shen fell into unconsciousness in the midst of the fight. That was when he realized that perhaps Qianzu was worried about him. While he was having these thoughts in private, Qianzu was observing him from an inconspicuous spot and was relieved to find Shen okay. Later, Mu tended to Shen's injuries and expressed that he was at the first stage of the Golden Realm and acted recklessly. Shen explained that it was something necessary to achieve his revenge, and it was required for such a battle. He also did not want to bother Jin with his grudges. King Jin emphasized that their lives were now linked with each other, which meant that anything happening to Shen meant equally to the heavenly puppet. Mu also warned him not to venture into dangerous territories. Shen confirmed to remember both of their advice. The original Ghost Mother also relayed having found something about the item inside the bag. She explained that it was the legendary immortal holy pill that jolted Shen. She explained that it could boost the level of a cultivator to a tremendous amount and could speed up the golden core process to ascend into the nascent realm. Shen pondered her words and asked if it was more useful for her to use them to restore her strength. She was stunned by his offer and expressed that this kind of treasure was too invaluable to be given to another. She could not be blessed with such precious items. The ghost mother furthered that the stone seal did not have any magical powers, but the structure was mysterious and unparalleled, meaning someone of immeasurable power created it. Jin thought that it was the same artifact the owner of the palace used to store her cultivation, which prompted an irritated response from the ghost mother. Later, Shen received a letter and hurried away after reading its contents. He arrived at the location and was faced with Chianu, who had been waiting. She inquired what Chianu sought from him during this meeting, so the puppet master adequately responded by showcasing him the elite pill. Shen was shocked to discover that Chianu had yet to take the pill and gain its powers. Chianu expressed that their match did not conclude properly and immediately summoned the black turtle armor. However, Shen explained that it was not a good idea to fight on the mountain just behind the Zhong estate, as they could get caught if someone found out. Chianu proposed that they shared a match of physical strength and hurled a fist right at Shen, who blocked it and took him on. Shen dodged the attacks and countered in his way. In an unexpected series of events, Shen managed to discover that his opponent was, in fact, a girl who had disguised her gender all along. Chianu, totally embarrassed, pushed him away and left. Later, Shen could not shake off the thought of Chianu and returned to his place. He interrogated the man about the ghost mother. At first, he confessed to having killed the girl, which was enough to bring Shen over to the edge. He was about to attack his opponent, but the real ghost mother came to knock some sense into the man. Shen soon realized that this was just Jin taking on a new appearance. The heavenly stone allowed him to restore all of his powers from when he was sealed. Shen explained his side of the story and the number of events that took place. The ghost mother did not care much about the Tianan genius, even if she was a girl. King Jin shared that Chianu was a girl and peeved at Shen for having a crush on her. The ghost mother digressed that she would help Shen make a breakthrough in his golden state soon so that he could help her ascend to the nascent soul realm. While Shen was unaware of his seclusion, the secret of Chianu was soon spread through the immortal cultivator's circle. Daoshin now desired for her to be with him. At the Yue family, obviously, the head of the state showed a serious response because of what happened. Chianu's father was told to be punished. However, Chianu took upon the punishment herself. She could not fathom why all of her achievements were ignored just because she was a girl. When the head of the family posed this objection, he proposed having resolved the matter differently. The condition was for her to organize a martial arts match. Meanwhile, the ghost mother and King Jin waited for Shen's return, who said that he wanted to take care of an important matter. She confronted the patriarch and reminded him of the condition of his ascending to the golden level. Shen wanted his mother's name to be included in the Zhong family, which prompted an angry response from the patriarch. Qing reflected that Shen was unable to accept the reality that was handed to him from back then. We were shown that his mother became engulfed in her fragile state, even though she wanted Shen to grow up just like her husband. Shen declared that his father was ignorant enough not to care for his wife while she was dying. He did not want to recognize the patriarch as his true father, but knew that she was his true love in the end. Qing wanted to interject in their affair, but the Zhong family patriarch stopped him. He questioned if Shen wanted to make his mother legitimate by including her in the genealogy of the family, and she declined his request. Shen was irritated by his refusal and wondered if he just did not desire to accept. Qing explained that the Zhong family also opposed their relationship, which meant that his father could not convince the elders to include their mother's name at present either. Shen apologized and began to leave, but his father called out for him. He offered for him to become the patriarch in his place and honor his mother's name. Shen objected that the family's patriarchs were always selected from the elite disciples, while he, who was the son of a servant, could not claim such rights. His father confirmed that he could if the elder of the nascent realm was willing to comply. Shen did not prefer the idea of interacting with the brute elders because they were responsible for Yun's demise. Qing supported Shen's nomination instead, as he was also the elder of the soul realm of the Zhong family. Shen stepped forth to take on the mantle and inquired how he could become the patriarch. His father instructed him to find an opportunity where he could prove himself worthy of the rank. The ghost mother began her spell and concentrated her powers on the meditating Shen. Even though her 3-month-long refinement process for the pill had been completed, the possibility of ascending to the nascent soul realm was dependent on Shen's control. Meanwhile, Shen himself was battling against the temptations of his mind, which were trying to consume him with emotion and violent sentiment. Shen swayed such feelings aside and reflected that the trial to ascend the nascent realm was just within his expectations of overcoming oneself. He cast open the gate to the realm and was confident to have successfully ascended. However, That was when Qianzu's influence on his body persuaded him to give in. Shen's control flickered with the spirit scattering away. The ghost mother had no choice but to restrain him with her powers. After a while, King Jin returned and wondered what happened. He was surprised to see the ghost mother as she walked away. Following her was Shen, who claimed to have failed the ascension and also injured Mu in the process. Jin informed him that Yue Qianzu was currently plotting a martial arts competition to find her match in marriage. The scene shifts to the Patriarch. Master Qing exclaimed that the battle between Shen and Daochen was a good opportunity for them to take advantage of. The Patriarch asked for his uncle to help him with the matter and expressed that he was the only one aware of his condition. Qing was confident in his claim that no one in the world surpassed the might of Zhong Xuanji's cultivation prowess. The Patriarch did not blame anyone for the events that took place, even though his uncle admired his achievements in the realm for the years that came. His body was at risk of being destroyed as a consequence of his cultivation, but Xuanji thought that his demons had already long haunted him. His uncle praised him dearly, but he did not let up. When Uncle Qing left to inform the elders, Xuanji coughed due to his condition. We were shown a flashback to his younger self. A young Xuanji met his new personal servant when he was expecting Qing to appear. The talks in the Zhong family raised him to an unprecedented standard, as he had awakened the demon beast bloodline at only 15 years of age. He was confidently looking like the next patriarch to lead their family. Xuanji was told to rest up after his tireless trip. He was walking in the hall when he discovered his servant observing what she thought to be a stone. Xuanji was baffled and corrected her, stating that it was a demon beast's egg. He also informed her that it was not much to worry about, as it was only a stone dove's egg that did not boast much power. They laid eggs on the spirit trees, and their eggshells absorbed the surrounding energy, disguising the egg as the egg of the powerful demon beast to protect the offspring. That was a strategy many merchants used to deceive their consumers. That was the first time his servant expressed such joy in wanting to keep them. Xuanji did not raise any complaints and allowed her to do so. When he was about to leave, she complained that he had been hurt and nearly called for Uncle Qing. Xuanji shut her up immediately and did not want her to yell. He took off his shirt to reveal the massive scratch marks as a result of his battle against a powerful demon. His servant was appalled to see the severity of the wound and wanted to call over Qing, but Xuanji advised her against it. While treating him, she expressed how everyone thought that he was the strongest among the immortal cultivators. However, in his mind, Xuanji only sought more strength. He was grateful for her considerate words. The Zhong family was secretly plotting their schemes. Xuanji even took on the 1,000-year-old demon and defeated it at once. He continued to better his understanding of the ghost dove bloodline and did not care to be used as a tool. She was just a gentle flower in his treacherous life, a person who was irreplaceable to his existence. At the center of his heart, Xuanji wanted most to run away from his family alongside her. When he was summoned to a meeting with one of the elders, Xuanji was shocked to discover that they sought the killing formation of the Zhong family. The head elder was fine with ordering the others to suppress their illegitimate disciples into place, while he forcefully killed them and absorbed their cultivation. Xuanji took great offense and did not want such a cruel way of obtaining power. However, the elder thought he was being ungrateful for turning down a chance to obtain greater strength by exterminating the trash. The elder advised him to treat his lower disciples as if they were demons, if that helped him slaughter them. Later, when he returned to his servant, Xuanji informed her of his decision to escape the family. At first, she could not understand what he meant and asked if he was sure to leave the family. Xuanji embraced her properly and shared a kiss with her, inquiring if she was fine with following his path of freedom. He was flustered to even ask her about her hand in marriage. That was how the two came to be. And after that, Xuanji made quick work of the 3 elite disciples by himself, emphasizing the gap between their strengths. Master Qing did not do as much to hold him off. The head elder was infuriated that he let him escape, but he was confident in tracking him down, thanks to the existence of his servant. Xuanji and his partner made comfort in their new life at a new home. Head also sold his sword and advised her not to address him as her master. He was confident in his ability to protect her despite losing his weapons. Xuanji lived a comfortable life with her, sharing many festivities and celebrations. However, that life was soon taken away from him when he discovered his wife's dead body. Xuanji exploded in anger. His terrifying aura could be felt all the way to the Zhong estate, even though it had been half a decade. The elder was confident of Xuanji's return after the parting of his maid. When Qing inquired how he was certain of what happened, the elder shared that he hired fugitive criminals, and hard they ordered him to kill the target. His plan worked out just well. Qing conveyed that the cruelest revenge was perhaps destroying the treasures of other people. The elder was fine with Xuanji's revenge as long as he pledged his life to the Zhong family. Soon after, Qing came to visit the sorrowful and enraged Xuanji, who did his best to resurrect her against the will of heaven. Xuanji begged his uncle to erase her memories from the moment she woke up while he had business to attend to. Xuanji understood something very important that day. It was that he could never live in peace with his wife unless the family changed from the ground up. He vowed to return to her after finishing his business and apologized until he left. Qing observed her body and asked if she was fine with forgetting Xuanji. The girl declined, stating that she would wait for him and the arrival of her son. Zhong Xuanji spent 7 years of his life killing and ascending to newer levels of status and managed to rectify his family's most violent traditions. However, the girl he loved, his wife, died that very year after incurring a long illness, leaving a son named Zhong Shen in her place. Zhong Daoqian's fight continued with him defeating the many warriors who challenged him in the tournament. Most of them were afraid of his ability and thought that the beautiful Yue Qianzu was out of their reach as no one had been able to defeat Daoqian so far. Hongling commented that Daoqian surpassed the other clan members because of his might. He deserved the right to be the center of the competition. However, Qianzu was visibly unimpressed, as she had already defeated him once before. Hongling argued that he managed to break through newer levels of power after coming out of the palace, ascending to the likes of the Golden Realm in a few dozen days. The next fighter to face Daoqian was a rather conspicuous one. Yiyun's terrible disguise seemed to be apparent to everyone except herself. Daoqian inquired why she was even here. Yiyun thought that it would be only fair to allow the women to participate and launched her strike. She was confident in her potent abilities, but her efforts were laid to waste when Daoqian effortlessly disposed of her. Only 30 minutes were remaining for the tournament's verdict. Daoqian was most certainly confident in obtaining Qianzu. However, a presence descended from the skies. Daoqian became frustrated, realizing that it was Shen, and hurled his fist to match him. Shen made his grand entrance while Jin and the Ghost Mother hovered to observe their fight. The Ghost Mother observed a peculiar presence from afar and realized that there was one more matter left to be resolved. Shen publicly confessed that he would have the beautiful Yue representative as his wife. His declaration made her flustered. Daoqian agreed and used his newly acquired powers to aim to destroy Shen. Even Shen could feel that he had ascended to the nascent soul realm, which was a matter even Hongling found herself skeptical to believe. Shen was slashed with a swift attack and realized that it was just the airflow grazing him. He had no choice in playing defensively and decided to fully initiate the power of the Ghost Dove. Daoqian was hit with his divine bluebird attack, but thought it was insignificant in front of his might. He was aiming to destroy Shen with his nascent powers. Observing the fight from nearby was the culprit responsible for making him ascend to such a state. The Ghost Mother spotted the spiritual treasure, which was an immortal mountain stone that allowed the child stone holder to receive power from the mother stone. The culprit turned his attention to interrogate the child with the weak spiritual aura. He thought it was best to kill her as she had discovered his act. However, the Ghost Mother easily destroyed her stone. When the elder lashed out in frustration, Jin made sure to slice him to bits. After his medium to access the nascent realm was cut off, Daoqian found himself stripped of his powers. He could not even locate Zhong Shen, who prepared an aerial strike from above. Shen used the power of the Ghost Dove and became the victor of the climactic battle, and with this, their destinies sang the songs of a new legend. Zhong Shen, now the patriarch of the Zhong family, began living his life with the beautiful Yue Qianzu, bringing an end to our story.
Don't forget to like and comment for the next part. Join our Discord for the name of the book and subscribe for more videos from us.